Good evening, good evening, good evening. How you guys doing tonight? Hopefully everyone is well. A lot going on today, but I definitely changed the background as you can see. Good evening, Nana. Good evening, Richard, Tam, Susie, Brenda, Leanne, Karen, Tia, Amber, Mark, Linda, Sabrina, Matt, Alex, Karen, Lynn. Hopefully, Matt. Hopefully I said good evening, everyone. Kevin. I think I got everybody. Glenda. Good evening. Glad to see you guys. We got to watch out for the new Omicron variant. BA2 or 5 is here. Of course, it's affecting more people even with the vaccine. There's a variant, of course, that doesn't show any resistance to the prior immunity, or we don't have any prior immunity to it, even if you've had the virus before. That's an alarming sign. That going on is the least of our worries, though, as our government has fundamentally taken down everything, as the U.S., of course, is reporting the job market is such a good case right now. The Feds are going to raise the rate another hike. Of course, inflation is out of control. Unvaccinated is actually worse or the same as vaccinated at this point. So, studies according to studies and everything else. Oh my goodness. Sorry to hear about that, William. Yeah, but the federal rate hikes are increasing. Of course, as consumer spending on credit cards surge, as people are having to borrow more money and lots of money because of high inflation, and the rising interest rates are going to make it even worse. This is what it looks like getting ready for economic turmoil. It's the amount of consumer credit used in May was $22.3 billion. We've been doing almost an average of $30 billion a month for the last several months. So, I mean, yeah, we'll talk about that. But let's talk about what's affecting us now. Of course, this revolving credit rate, the credit cards are increased already to 8.1% on most key data points. 8.1% on your credit card interest rates. And they're expected to go up to 7.1, 7.2, or not 9.1, 9.2 within this next rate hike. People taking consumer credit are really it's going to hit them hard. They're using their credit cards more, and of course, it's going to pay for it. We know student or auto loans and student loans or other non-revolving credits climbed to 5.2%, much less volatile than the actual unsecured debt category. But what is that going to affect? Well, it affects a lot of things. And one thing that's going to affect this debt is the child care centers that can't afford to stay open at this point and what it means for families. Daycare centers from rural communities and many U.S. child care providers are raising the prices of tuition to combat inflation, yet adding another strain for families. People that can't afford food, rent, or power, or supplies, as prices are skyrocketing throughout the United States. On top of that, their child care is going to go up. And they're roughly saying 40% is going to be the average increase. 40% on child care. Can you imagine that, having a young child and all of a sudden have to pay 40% more when you can't afford what you already have? I mean, this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. I already called it a recession. It's done. It's a recession. I'm thinking we're going to hit a depression at this point because people are going to take out so much credit that they can't afford to pay it back ever. I mean, if prices go up for daycare 35 to 40%, which operating costs have, That's going to be a hard number to hit. Of course, a record number of people worldwide are moving towards starvation as we speak today. Not just shortage of chickpeas, but shortage of global supplies and global destabilization, starvation, and widespread mass migration. Unprecedented scales today. That's what we're seeing. There's a record 345 million acute hungry people in the world right now. That's a 25% increase from the start of 2022. 25% more people are acute hunger. It is sad. I mean, back in 2020, it was 135 million total in the world. Now it's up to 345 million. Now you can blame it on the war in Ukraine, but even before the war in Ukraine, it was 276 million from 135. There's a huge jump. Of course, they want to point out that, oh, this is all the Russia's fault in Ukraine. This isn't just Russia and Ukraine. This is people around the world and us, not just us alone. And us. Of course, the U.S. is going to increase interest rates again to combat inflation, hammering those people that are having to use credit cards to buy food in the first place. So you decrease inflation, but you're just going to pay more in interest. So one hand washes the other, as we see. And the U.S., of course, is sending more weapons to Ukraine, as the U.S. announces another shipment of weapons for Ukraine. The Pentagon announced another arms shipment to Ukraine that is valued around $400 million, bringing the total military systems rolled out since February to over $7 billion. The latest shipment includes high-precision artillery ammunitions as well as 4 advanced high-mobility artillery rocket systems. Which, of course, we are admitting, even the Pentagon, and in their announcement, said, which have allowed Ukraine to strike military stockpiles and other targets behind the front lines, and inside of Russia. This statement came out today is going to hurt people even worse. The new shipment will bring the total number of the high mobility artillery rocket system launchers in Ukraine to a total of 12 total systems now. It is ridiculous. As we're pushing this front line further and further into trying to provocate war with Russia at this point. That's not a question. We're moving 300,000 troops there. Every time we turn our heads, we're sending more weapons there that were directly against what we agreed that we weren't going to do. It is just sad. CERN trying to discover wormholes and other dimensions. We've already discovered 3 new exotic particles, and they're trying to contain or to get enough dark matter to study, which they say around 40 grains. 1 grain is 10 times the explosion that happened at Hiroshima. Is capable of that. This is crazy in the world we live in today. And Putin says directly that his operations in Ukraine have hardly even started, and he plans to keep pushing. Vladimir Putin offered a warning that those hoping Russia will likely defeat the military in Ukraine. Largely speaking, we haven't yet started anything in the earnest, is what he said. So this is crazy. He's ready to double down on Ukraine. He says now that he's taken Luhansk, the remainder of the Ukrainian hands, I mean, the second largest city's been taken already. We're staging ourselves for war over there. Yes, we are. And that's going to be crazy because when we're sending supplies over there at an alarming rate and we don't have enough here, what's going to happen to our people? As we're following this every day. It is crazy. China buying U.S. oil that came out of our strategic reserves. But yet it's, oh, well, we're not going to talk about that. Sad. It is truly sad. Hi, Dana. It's been a long time since I've seen you. Hope all is well. David, I've seen you in here too. It's crazy though, watching what's happening. It is absolutely crazy. Oh, it was more than 1 million barrels. It was 4 million barrels. 4 million barrels overseas. And Moscow's already stated that they might take back Alaska now. What happens if they decide to start moving on any of this stuff? China, with aircraft carriers now outnumbering ours, outclassing ours by a long shot. I mean, they have almost 2 full AI aircraft carriers now, allowing them to run remote without anybody in danger. Heads of MI5 and FBI gave a joint warning of the growing threat from China. Long-term possible threat that China posed by China to the UK and the US interest. And this is their first joint appearance that ever happened, or joint comments. Of course, MI5 director Keen McClellan said that the service has already more than doubled our previous constraint efforts against China's activity of concerns. I mean, they're running twice as many people to try to figure out what they're going to do about this. FBI director said the same thing. Poses the biggest long-term threat to economic and national security. Chinese dollar is taking over the market already. Literally taking over the market. It is crazy what's happening. Absolutely crazy. And watching our government just stand by with their hands in their pockets like they don't have nothing better to do. They don't have anything better to do. I mean, the Chinese yen is making headway as a global reserve currency, with 85% of central banks keen on holding it as an asset now. 85% of central banks are now keen on holding the yen as asset. Central banks increasing the key tend to hold Chinese yen as reserve currency is a very troubling spot for the U.S. because the U.S. no longer has the petrodollar. We no longer have a gold-backed dollar. And this is a more than 80% shift. Multipolar world where the U.S. no longer reigns supreme and would benefit by its currency. And we're seeing it happen. We're seeing it happen. 85% of central banks are investing in Chinese yen. That's up from 81% earlier this year. But it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. These reserves are, of course, these central banks that were holding yen are up at least 5.7% on the amount of yen they were holding from last year. Now everybody, of course, trying to hold yen as a reserve currency. This is crazy situation. Russia invading Ukraine, and of course, Ukraine and Belgium's close relationship with Moscow, as well as China's breakneck economy growth in recent years, has increased the talks of the world, in which the U.S. is no longer an overwhelming dominant force. The world is talking about this, not just China. The world sees the U.S. as no longer the dominant force. I mean, our Navy was outmatched, or was supposedly the way we were going to keep China in check. What did China do over the last year and a half? They've produced enough ships to outclass our Navy with better technology than what we have. Newer, more sophisticated technology, not aging ships that are 50 years old that we keep trying to retrofit. These are brand new with top of the line technology. Biden wants his liberal world order. Well, that's not going to happen. Every country in the world is trying to tackle inflation. It's not happening anywhere. China's the only one. China and Russia seem to be the only two that have it under control. And Russia's highly sanctioned. So what does that tell you? What does that tell you? If Russia, that is highly sanctioned against right now, is having a better economy than the U.S., the military is still trying to force people to get vaccinated. Biden tries to sign executive orders, of course, for abortion access, which basically that executive order doesn't do anything if you've actually looked at it. It's another joke. Roe versus Wade got overturned by the Supreme Court because the Supreme Court does not make laws, and that's what Roe versus Wade was. The Supreme Court making a law. There was no law on abortion before, pro or for or against, according to the Constitution. Roe versus Wade went to the Supreme Court, and it got judged and made a law by the Supreme Court the first time, which was wrong. That's the reason it got overturned. But Democrats can't admit that. Democrats can't admit that they cannot pass anything through the Senate or the House to get it to Biden's desk. Because not enough people agree with free open range abortion. Do whatever you want. It's not okay. The rest of the world's laughing at us at an alarming rate. Better be a red wave this November. It is sad seeing what's happening. Musk, of course, is dumping his Twitter deal. So, I think Twitter is going to be around for much longer, especially after he found out how many bots were in there and everything else. I mean, it's ridiculous. Yeah, it's up to the states right now. Nobody changed the law. All that changed is the Supreme Court's ruling basically got annulled, saying the Supreme Court should have never made that decision. They don't make laws. They rule on law. Monkeypox cases in the U.S. are up 77% this week alone. Coronavirus cases are up drastically as well as the BA.5 variant is here in the U.S. And people are getting sick. Fortunately, not as many people are being hospitalized as of yet. But we're seeing more countries ramp up oil buying at alarming rates. Yeah, they must back. Elon backed out of the deal with Twitter. Food prices are squeezing the poorest, even in the richest countries like the U.S., having drastic measures on us. Cases are getting crazy of the new BA.5 variant is pretty much everywhere in the U.S. already. The case numbers are going away. It should peak by the end of this month. We'll see what it actually is going to take hold and see how many people are going to be sick with it and how bad it's going to be. God bless you guys. Thank you guys for being here with me. I will see you guys tomorrow night at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. It's just one thing after another. Stay strong, stay safe, and God bless you.